Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. Today I want to talk about which things I buy new even though I'm living a minimalist and sustainable lifestyle. And stay tuned for the end because then I'm going to share a few tips on how I decide if I want to buy something or not to just not end up impulse buying things I don't need later. As a minimalist, I try to only bring items into my home that I really need. The ones I do buy have to be very functional and high quality, so I don't have to buy a new thing for a long time. And because I try to live a sustainable life, that means that the products I bring into my home are sustainably and ethically made, and that I try to have these for as long as possible also, just because I don't want to dispose of them and because I want to have a minimal ecological footprint. Normally, as a sustainable living person, you would try to buy everything secondhand or just figure out the way that you don't need that item at all. But there are some things that I ended up buying new over the past few years. And in today's video, I want to share these with you and try to explain why I made these decisions. The first thing that I buy new is underwear. Maybe you know that already from my video that I made about things I would never buy secondhand, but underwear I buy from ethically and sustainably factoring companies, and I try to make sure that it's produced in Europe, that it's made out of mostly natural fibers, and that it's of course good quality so it will last as long as possible. The second thing I bought new was my computer. It's a laptop computer and I wanted to have a pretty light device, which is also very powerful because I do a lot of video and photo editing. And therefore I was looking for secondhand devices but couldn't find any that would meet my needs. The decision was also maybe made because after searching for a month and my old computer was just falling apart and not working anymore, I had to have a new one. And in the future I would still try to find a similar device refurbished or secondhand, and I would opt for something like that because the older versions are usually too bulky, too heavy, or not powerful enough. The third thing I bought was my phone. It's that one right here, and this is a Shift phone. There are two companies out there that produce sustainable and ethical phones, and that is one of them. Of course, it's not 100% sustainable because that's not possible with a phone, but still it's designed in Germany, it's produced in China, but they are making sure that the people there get enough money for their jobs, and it's also designed so that you can change certain parts of it. So for example, the battery, of course, the screen, the camera, I think almost every part is interchangeable. So if something ends up breaking, you can just order the new piece and change it at home. And that's a reason why I bought this phone, and also because I really wanted to support this company because I thought their vision is really great, and it's just nice to have a piece that you know is made sustainably and ethically. Of course, it's not as sustainable as buying a phone secondhand, but now I have a topic to talk about with people. If they mention my phone or if they see that it's like a different company they don't know, I can always tell them, yeah, when you consider buying a new phone, why not looking into Fair or Shift phones? The fourth thing I bought new during the last few years is backpacks. And usually I wouldn't buy these new, because I think there's so many backpacks out there, and even the models from like 10 years ago, I mean, nothing happens to them. They're still great. I think they still have a good shape. There's not so much research or changes done in that industry that you cannot use a backpack that has been produced 10 years ago. So it would be an ideal thing to buy secondhand. But still, I ended up buying my backpack new, and I'm actually looking into another backpack I really want, and I would buy that new as well. The backpack I have right now that I bought new, there's not a really good explanation for that. Maybe because just I was in the store and tried it on and it was perfect for my bag, so I just thought, why not buying it instead of like waiting and seeing if it will be available at some point secondhand. So I just bought it. It was not a bad company. It was not a very sustainable company, but still they try to be as sustainable as possible and they make a lot of efforts. So I don't feel very bad for that. The new backpack I want is ethically and sustainably produced as well, and it is a great system because with that backpack I would be able to only have that one backpack. Right now I have two, one for everyday life and one for traveling, but with that system it would be the perfect thing. It's just my dream backpack, and it's quite new still, so I don't think it's available secondhand. Of course, I would check, but also I would really like to support that company because I think they're doing a great project there, and that it's a product that the world really needs, at least people like me do. And the fifth thing I buy new are gifts. I buy a lot of gifts new just because for some people, I don't know how they would feel about getting a secondhand gift, and sometimes it's also because the things I want to give are specials and are not really available secondhand. And usually if I give gifts, I try to buy things that are ethically and sustainably made as well, of course, and I try to make sure that it's really good quality pieces that people can have for as long as possible. Also, sometimes I give away photo presents, which means like printed calendars or books or things like that. And yeah, I mean, you cannot have that secondhand because it's personalized. It's like my photos in there. But my issue with that is that I don't think that it's produced as sustainable as possible because it's just normal companies that do that. And I've never seen one of these that tries to make an effort to be sustainable. So that's something I wish there was out there. Or if you know something, of course, write it in the comments. But I have never been able to find a company that tries to like print maybe on more sustainable paper, or just make sure that they don't need any chemicals or things that are not necessary. Yeah, I would be interested if there's something out there like that. The last thing I have always bought new in the past is shoes. Some people say it's not healthy for your feet if you buy shoes secondhand, and I don't really know how much I want to believe in that and why I made this decision, but for now I always bought my shoes secondhand. Also, of course, I wanted to have like specific models and specific shoes in general, so that ended up working well for me. But in the future, of course, I would buy them from sustainable brands or like more sustainable brands, and maybe also try to make sure that they're vegan. But I have a huge problem with vegan shoes that are made of plastic, like petrochemical sourced fake leather. So that wouldn't be a solution for me, because then I shred microplastic into the nature if I'm strolling around. Now I want to give you some tips to make sure that you're not impulse buying or like just buying things you don't need. My first tip is, if you see something that you really want to have, just wait a few days and see if you still want to have it, or even a few weeks or months. A good method would be writing down everything you've seen you really wanted and just checking in with you a few days later to see, yeah, do I still want that? Because there are a lot of times where a few days later it's just not important anymore. The second tip I have for you is getting rid of your imaginary self. Because sometimes when I saw things in the past that I really wanted to have, I had a picture in my head of me wearing that thing or using it, and it would be a very specific situation. What I mean by that is sometimes I would want a piece for a situation that might never happen. So I would imagine myself being on holiday using that thing. I would imagine myself just in another place in life and using that thing. And I think that's a strong sign that you don't need it right now. Because if you can't see yourself using that thing on a day-to-day basis in your everyday life, maybe you just don't need it. My third tip is to really get some distance and think about pros and cons of that item. Because sometimes it just really looks perfect and you think, oh, that's exactly what I need. And then if you think about it, you see that it has some downsides as well. What happens to me when I do this is sometimes that I'm not even very excited anymore about an item after thinking about it. But I think that's also a good thing, because we can never imagine how we feel about a certain item if we have already used it for like 500 times. Usually we are very excited the first time, maybe the second and third as well, but then it gets more normal, it gets boring, and we end up not being excited about it anymore. So it's a good thing to just get some time and think about it and really weigh the pros and cons and really think about if it's something that is good for your future life. If it's something that you can use a lot, if it's something that you cannot take another item for that you already have, and if it's something that would really make you happy. That are my tips for today. If you have any more, or if you have any thoughts about this topic, please leave it in the comments below. I would be very interested to read it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!